4th time that I am recording this section of this video. I ramble too much. So then I'll like stop in the middle of me talking. I'm like, that's too long. I also just don't want to edit that much. First of all, I want to show you my cool sticker that I put on my water bottle. Hayden's mom made it for me with her Cricut. Thank you, Hayden's mom. And thank you, Hayden. When I originally made this video, I was making it into like a vlog, right? I was talking about how I was gonna go to Trader Joe's and like I needed to do some cleaning, whatever. And then I also was talking about how I watched my fam's vlogs. I was getting caught up on those. And she made a video called like the toxic trend of reinventing yourself, something like that. And that video was what inspired me to kind of talk about this topic. This is something that I feel like people don't talk about. Some people might not even experience this, but I am gonna talk about this because I know that if I feel this way, there's no way that I'm the only one that's felt this way or is going to feel this way. So, you know, I thought I might as well bring awareness to it. Obviously, like, I'm not a huge channel or anything, but if this comes across the right person, great. If I could help somebody not feel alone, great. You know what? That's a win in my book. 2022, I've been through a lot. It's been a crazy year for me. It's definitely an adjustment period. I do a quick rundown, which I actually did re-record earlier today because I didn't like that part of it. Here's like the 1.5-minute clip from that rundown.
I was editing earlier and I realized that I really explained the whole rundown of like what happened really bad, so I wanted to re-record it. Basically, if you don't know, at the end of December of last year, me and my boyfriend of almost 3 years broke up. At that time, we were living together. We had basically revolved our entire lives around each other and built our lives around each other. I mean, that's kind of what you do in a long-term relationship. So when we broke up, it was a big thing. I had to get out of that situation, and in order for me to do that, I had to find another apartment, which I ended up moving into at the end of April. During that time, I also decided to go back to school, so I was dealing with a lot of that. Also just like getting over the breakup and, you know, post-breakup stuff. So that was a lot mentally. I was also working 60 hours a week as much as I could because I was trying to save up as much money as possible so that I could be comfortable whenever I moved in. A week before I moved in, I got a job offer as digital marketing coordinator of TriTech Automation, which is where I work now. It's what I do now. I am extremely grateful for the job. It is my dream job that I could have as of right now. It is freaking amazing, but I didn't realize how much of an adjustment period that would be, especially because, well, one, I had been in the restaurant industry my entire life and I was just so comfortable there. Also, the adjustment of living completely on my own, which is what I will get into the next clip. That's the basic rundown. It was a lot. That all happened. You have to remember, like, that all happened within the span of 4 months. Let's get back into the video.
So now that you know, like, pretty much the basis of what I went through and, like, how fast everything changed for me this year, I feel like I am able to explain. Yes, I have a Halloween blanket on. Don't mind me. I'm freezing. Now I can explain kind of the adjustment period that I went through with living alone. I just also want to put a disclaimer out there. I am not dissing living alone. I love living alone now. I just want to bring awareness to the fact that it can be a lot and people don't talk about that. So my experience with asking people on advice with living alone is everybody says it's great, which it is. A lot of the pros have to do with the fact that you are in complete control of everything that goes on. From decorating to finances to organization, it's great. You don't have to worry about anybody else's opinion. You don't have to worry about anybody else stealing your stuff or getting in your way. You have a lot of freedom, which is the best part of living alone. And you don't have to count on anybody else for anything. That's mostly like a finance thing. Personally, I just like to be in control of all my finances. Whenever it's like splitting the price with somebody, that could be, with somebody who has anxiety, that can be a lot for somebody. A lot of the pros have to do with the freedom. The only bad part about it so far that I've seen is the adjustment period until you get used to it, which for me lasted about 4 months. Now, to be fair, I was not just going through an adjustment period with living alone. I was going through an adjustment period with going back to school, and I was also going through an adjustment period with starting an entire new career. That's probably why mine lasted so long. I am not saying that if you go through the same kind of depressive episode that it'll last that long for you. Do not let that scare you. But here's where my mindset was. I had always had somebody or something else living with me. Even after Perry and I ended things and we were still like living together, he wasn't at the apartment a lot, but I still had cats, right? There was still some kind of living presence with me. There was still something that would lay with me and cuddle with me and distract me if I felt lonely. And then before that, I lived at my dad's house. I always had people over all the time. If you guys have watched my videos from a few years ago, you would know that. All the time, I lived with somebody. And then I was also a server for a long time. I worked in the customer service industry my entire life. And especially with where I was working, there was a lot of people all the time. It was a busy restaurant. So I was getting a lot of social interaction from that, interacting with customers, interacting with coworkers. And because I grew up in the restaurant industry, I've always grown up a pretty social person. So then, within a span of 2 weeks, I was out of the apartment and on my own. I switched over to a new job where I had no social interaction. A lot of it was work from home. I'm a one-person department, and anybody that I work with is much older than me, and I'm the youngest at my company, and I actually don't think I'm the youngest anymore, but I was. Everybody I work with is super nice. It's just they're not at the same stage of life as I am. All of that changed, and it freaked me out. Anxiety, depression through the roof. I started resenting the apartment. Not the apartment itself necessarily, but I hated being here because whenever I was here, I would just cry. I honestly didn't think that I would make it through. There was a point where it got really bad, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I was calling Hayden like 9 times a day. That's not even an exaggeration. I could probably go back in our call log. I was going to my grandparents all the time just to escape. I was calling my dad all the time. I didn't want to be at the apartment, but I don't work well in an office setting. I've been going to the office a lot recently, and I've been like forcing myself to get stuff done, but as far as like just sitting still and not being able to like walk around and take breaks if I need to or whatever, like that does not work with me. My anxiety is not good with that. I was trying to get work done and trying to be productive as possible, but also I didn't want to stay home, so I'd like go to my old work. I went to my old work a couple of times to do some work, coffee shops, Panera, like whatever, just to get away from the apartment so that I wouldn't cry. I was lonely for a while. Now I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. Emma Chamberlain did a podcast episode called Alone But Not Lonely. I'm pretty sure is the name of it. Actually go listen to it. I listened to it a couple of weeks ago, and that made so much sense to me. Like after listening to that, it made so much sense to me because that's exactly how I feel. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. And I finally got myself into like kind of a routine, kind of an idea of what I'm like supposed to do every day. I also am just so busy right now that I don't have time to like focus on all the negative emotions, which I haven't had that many negative emotions in like a month. I went through like kind of a depressive episode a couple of weeks ago, but I honestly think it was because I was PMSing. TMI, I don't really care. But you know, I feel much better now. I'm single. I live alone. I do what I want. It's great. I was given a lot of freedom, but at the same time a lot of responsibility, and I didn't really have anybody by my side for any of that, and it was hard for me to adjust to. But now I love it. I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not even talking to a dude. I don't even want anything to do with guys. The idea of a relationship, because of how okay I am with being alone now, the idea of a relationship makes me want to vomit. Sorry, that was a lot. No boys, no roommates, no pets. I don't have to worry about any of that. Anything that I do is for me. Now that I'm at the point where I can really be happy with that, that's what made me ready to talk about this. The point of this video is not for you to feel bad for me. The point of this video is for me to kind of explain, hey, this is what happened to me. This is kind of where my mental state was. And if you go through something like this, just know that you're not the only one. And also, if you do plan on living alone soon, maybe expect a little bit of an adjustment period. I'm not saying it would be as dramatic as mine was, but it is going to be different. Especially if you've never done it. Oh my god, I can't talk. Especially if you've never done it before. Just accepting that and being ready for it, and just know that eventually you'll get yourself into a routine and you will find happiness in the freedom, and you will realize how much time you have for yourself. I think that a lot of us realize this during like quarantine. You'll finally have a lot of time to think for yourself and kind of go through your own thoughts. And if you're somebody like me who didn't process their own thoughts for a long time, that'll take a lot out of you too. But yeah, that's the end of this topic. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that this helps somebody, and if you have any questions, let me know. I will see you guys, I don't know when I'll see you next.